Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I am your host, Adam Cousins, and I've got a full screen with me this evening. Dave, welcome back after our Dynamite review. Have you simmered from a little bit of what you were saying on that?
Yeah, I've calmed down a bit now, mate. Yeah, I'm ready for this mixed tag team match that we say to have going on.
We have indeed. And, well, of course, we've got an NWA guest joining us, but we've also got our NWA queen, and you have now purchased your tickets to our show, Fiona. You're coming.
I have. I will be joining you in July. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the trip down. Should be good.
Should be fun indeed. But anyway, our guest, six-time women's champion in TNA, and is now NWA, which is what we've been focusing on quite heavily on the show. Fiona, Angelina Love, it's afternoon over there, right?
Yep, 2 p.m. Eastern time.
So 7 o'clock over here. Fiona, is it still sunny in Scotland? I know that Scotland doesn't get a lot of sun. So
it is absolutely beautiful. I am thinking that my hoodie was a mistake right now.
Okay.
I'm dying here.
No, brilliant. Angela, thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We just want to quickly start with the women's wrestling now and how it's really growing. Like, I think the common misconception people will say is that it only started getting better when WWE presented it as a women's revolution, but realistically started in TNA with the Gal Kims and yourselves. But how do you think now it's being better presented, or is there still a bit more improvements that can be made along the line?
I mean, I think everything can always have improvements. Because there's just like wrestling changes with like the ebb and flow of society, you know what I mean? And that's always changing as well. So but I mean, I think we all kind of know that like that women's revolution thing probably started back in like 07, 08
Yep.
when the Knockouts division started.
Yep.
And I feel like that's very fair to say, because just what we were doing was so different than like what WWE was doing. And I remember somebody had put a poll out on Twitter, and this was like a few years ago, and it was like, where, like, asking the fans, like, where do you think like the women's revolution started? Like, was it WWE Divas? Was it like TNA Knockouts? And I think there was something else, I can't remember. And the TNA Knockouts thing was like the highest voted. So I think that's really, but a lot of people, like, if they were like really young back then, or they're just like a casual wrestling fan, it's like you might not even know like what TNA was. Like, everybody knows what like WWE, WWF is, you know what I mean? So I think that would be like a lot of people, that's like their first go-to. But yeah, I mean, what I love so much about being one of the OGs is that's something that nobody can ever take away from us. You know what I mean? It was us that started that division and really like kind of shed the light and like broke through for women's wrestling for sure.
Yeah.
Was that a concerted effort from the talent, or was it the management in place? What changed and to give you that opportunity and that focus that perhaps the men had in the past?
Well, like in TNA specifically, they just were wanting to start a women's division, because I know Gail and Tracy Brooks were there. They had Jacqueline Moore there.
Yep.
And everybody was wanting to wrestle, but it's like what are you gonna do? Like with 3 girls? So Jeff Jarrett, they were just very open to like, okay, we're gonna start a women's division, and if it sinks, it sinks, and if it swims, it swims. Like, we'll just have to see. So, and then I had just got released from WWE like 4 months prior, I think.
Yeah.
And like Terry Taylor was in talent relations there, and I've known Terry since I was 19, and Scott Demore, same thing. He was an agent there. So then when they knew that I was like a free agent, they contacted me. So they was just like a sink or swim thing. And I think it's safe to say we swam very well.
It definitely swam very well indeed. To this day, even, do you think now, because we were talking, myself and Dave were just doing a review of Dynamite, and we were saying that the last couple of weeks, they seem to have put the matches on the card in like I call it the killer spots. It's right before the main event, and it literally was like 6 minutes. And so when we were sitting there saying, like, give it another 10, I know that there was things that happened obviously on the show that time constraints were probably the thing, but do you still think now that you still need that 50, because there's so much talent. Even when you look at all the promotions, even in that era, they were just never given that real opportunity that TNA gave, like yourselves and you say Gail Kim and Kong and everyone like that. They was always there in all the federations and all the promotions, but they were just never given that time as such.
Well, you know, a lot of people like to say things about Vince Russo. I have nothing but good things to say about him because he's the reason that we were all over the shows all the time. Like Vince loved the girls, and I mean that in like a very professional manner. He was just easy to work with. It was easy to talk to him, bounce ideas off of him, joke with him. And he would make sure like every show we did would have like at least 10 girls featured, you know what I mean? Like even if so I call Velvet Tal. So I'll try to say Velvet, but if I say Tal, it's the same person. If they were going to do a match with like Kong and Gail and Roxy and ODB or whatever, then that's like maybe the girls match. So there's 4 girls right there. And then Christy Hemmy's the ring announcer and SoCal Val's the ring girl. There's 6 girls. And then they would have like me and Tal and Madison and maybe like Billy Gunn doing the backstage segment in our thrones or something ridiculous. And that's 3 more girls. So right there, that's like 9 girls or like whatever on the show. You know what I mean? So he always found ways, or we would do a gauntlet, 10 girls doing a gauntlet match, and it's a whole segment. So he was always really good at making sure that as many females as possible, because they knew, and I know for a fact from some things that were said in like creative meetings and agent meetings, it was like the women are the highest ratings on the show. We want ratings, got to have the women on.
Well, I'll tell you what, we had Vince Russo on, was one of our first guests. You're actually, it's a 100th show. I forgot to mention that it's 100th show. So yeah, there you go. So he was literally the first guest that I had on when I joined the podcast. And he was like, when he was in WWE, he was like, we would literally go quarter by quarter and segment by segment. And the guy that was consistently drawing the highest rating would be the one that they put. And he even said that if the Austin McMahon thing that didn't happen, like it didn't draw, would have scrapped it. So basically, he was taking that same idea in TNA with the women, saying, well, these girls are drawing here. It might not even be at certain times or just drawing in general. We need to keep the focus on what's bringing in the numbers.
Well, and the great thing too is that we were on Spike TV at the time, and that's like a man channel. You know what I mean? Like it was like our show, and then like the Ultimate Fighter was on after us. So it was like the perfect channel to be on too, because Spike TV was so hot at the time, and we had a really good time slot too.
Indeed. Fiona, why don't you start with you now? You must have some questions for Angelina.
Oh, well, see, most of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about was actually more kind of NWA related stuff. Obviously, like you debuted in 2022, wasn't it? If I remember rightly.
For NWA?
Yeah. Was it 2022?
Yeah.
So I love the NWA. That's like my baby. That's the one show every week that I make sure I watch. I've managed to be out. I attended the Crockett Cup last year. I was out at Enough Said this year in Tampa.
That's like I had like probably one of my top 3 favorite matches ever is the one I had with Camille.
That match with Camille that no DQ match was something else. I was ringside for that. Talk to me about that, because that was phenomenal.
Oh my God, it was so fun. Like I love Camille. She's the best. And we had wanted to work each other for like a long time. And the storylines progressed kind of quickly in NWA. So it was like, we did like Fodder and I attacked Tom and Camille on the live show at the end of January in Knoxville. And then, that led to both of us wrestling them at Enough Said. And what I love the most about like matches, like a no DQ match or some kind of gimmick match, is you don't really have to think a lot, which is great because it was like, we basically just figured out what we were going to do inside the ring and when. And then everything we did on the outside was pretty much just ad-libbed. Yeah. We could talk to each other because it's like, we had 12 minutes. So we were like, okay, like, we got like some time to fill, because you usually get like 7 for TV.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was so easy. And that was our first time ever working each other. And I feel like it flowed really well. I mean, like we just worked really well together, and everything that we executed in that match was like perfect. And we only called probably half of it.
Yeah.
So I was like really happy that it turned out so well. She was too.
As a fan sitting ringside, it was great because you were in the ring and you were out the ring, and there was bins getting thrown about and bin lids getting thrown about and everything. And it was phenomenal. It was great to be there and watch it in person. But then when I got to see it back, when I rewatched the pay-per-view, like on the sofa at home watching it, I was like, wow, because obviously you get to see so much more. You miss things when you're there live.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the action's at the other side of the ring or it's spilled out. But it was phenomenal. I love the women's division in NWA. I think it's really, really strong. Obviously, Camille's had the belt for over 2 years now. She had the match at the last pay-per-view with Markova. And I'm kind of like, what's next, really, for the women's division there? There's so many options. And is that something that you've got your sights on?
Well, I don't ever go to a company not looking to do the best and be the best. But it was cool because like I've just been around for so long and been in so many locker rooms that like NWA was like new. Like when I went back to Ring of Honor in 2019, that was new because like a lot of the guys who were working for Ring of Honor were just exclusively working for Ring of Honor. They weren't guys, like there was some guys that I knew from like Impact before or whatever, like Jay Lethal and stuff like that. But it's cool to like be in the business for so long and still be meeting new people when you go to a new locker room, you know what I mean? So like there was a lot of new girls that I had never met before in NWA. And it's really easy. Listen, I'm 41 and I'm like, I can't do drama. And I'm just looking for like laid back work environments, you know what I mean? And it's very easy and it's very laid back there.
I think Adam will attest to this. A lot of the guests that we've had on from NWA have all said the same thing, that they love the locker room in NWA. No one has a single bad thing to say about it. Everyone's just said it's been the most relaxed, most chilled, most enjoyable locker room that they've ever actually been involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I would agree.
Yeah, from Plunky to Sal to AJ to EC3 to Tony Lacasso. Yeah, everyone's pretty much said the same thing about NWA. Switching gears back to Impact, we can't not talk about you and Velvet, or Tao as you call it.
We all have multiple names.
Yeah, we to be fair, we do. Dave's got about 20 gimmicks on this show yet. He hasn't showed them all just yet. But that for me was, I think when you had to say the best combination of like, you still got presented in a way where you look great and all that stuff, but you both had the same work ethic in the ring. So it was kind of like TNA had kind of hit the jackpot with you two because you had both elements of what pretty much women's wrestling was about at that point, but then they gave you the time. Was it as fun as it looked for us watching with you and Velvet doing it?
Oh my gosh, it was the time of our life, like, because like she had like always been trying to get hired by WWE and it just never happened, like for whatever ridiculous reason. And then I was there and I never got out of developmental. I was watching all these Diva Search models like go up to TV before me, and then I just got released. And so like I was like 25 and like thought my career was just like over. But oh no, how old was I? No, I was 20. Yeah, I was 25 when I got released. But it was because like we're just so goofy and we just have like the same kind of like sarcastic sense of humor. And we had decided to be a team because we kind of dressed the same. We always did like 100% hair, 100% makeup, spray glitter, little skirts. Like we were really sexy, and we were just the two that were like really doing that when like the division first started. But it was because, like I said, we just like to laugh and be silly, but I think we can do it in like a really real way. And that's why, like, when we kind of brought that across, like in the Beautiful People, everything came across really authentic, I think. And that's a big deal when it comes to fans being invested in you. And, just like how well you do is believability, because if people are like, oh, I hate when she cuts promos, like, oh, it just sounds like fake bad acting and blah, 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 blah. We were literally just being ourselves turned up like a lot of notches on like the bitchy like schoolgirl scale, you know what I mean? And it was just really easy to do. And I think I know for a fact some like people really thought that we were like that, and we were like, that's great, that means we're really good at what we're doing. But we would, you know, Vince was so much fun to work for. Everybody, that was a really good locker room too, because like even though the women were getting the highest consistently week after week, getting the highest rated segments on the show, there was no animosity from the men. Everybody was really supportive. Anytime that we had girls matches, there would be like a guy backstage giving like AJ Styles or like some Jay Lethal. I remember one time Sting pulled us aside after a tag match, and we were all just like giving us feedback, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I used to watch Sting when I was like 16 years old in high school, and like would go to the library and like look up like, you know, his bio and stuff. And I'm like, here I am, I work with him, and he's like giving me feedback on my match. Like, what is my life? So, but everybody was like really supportive, and really, really cool. So that makes for like a really nice, happy work environment for everybody.
I love that period of your career and that period in TNA, Angelina, when you were in Madison and Velvet. What kind of happened in TNA when things started going wrong? Because you had so much momentum, so many great wrestlers there. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, you know, the list goes on. You're Kurt Angle. I know Hogan and Bischoff came in. What started the decline? Because Impact now it's doing really well again, and their shows are getting rave reviews. But there was that dip period, and it's just interesting to know what happened.
Dixie Carter happened.
Okay.
And a lot of bad advice and a lot of bad business decision making happened. She lost us our deal with Spike, so that was just like. And we found that out when we were at TV filming at Universal Studios. And that just like, oh my God, you talk about just like sucking the morale and the wind out of everybody. It was just like, we all thought we were just going to be jobless. Like it was terrible. And then it was like, the door kind of opened up to like anybody who's interested in helping run the product. We just let them in. So like they brought in like John Gaburek, who was, you know, and then like Bischoff came in and Pritchard, and it just changed the vibe and the atmosphere completely. And I do not mean in a good way. And then it just seemed that like year after year after year, it would come down to like the 11th hour and the 59th minute and the 59th second of like this, whatever TV contract we had, whether it was like Pop TV or Destination America or whatever the heck else we were on, who was gonna like save, you know, Impact at the last second. And then it was like somebody, and then we were like, whew, okay, I guess we're okay for another year or whatever. And it's just like but they just kept getting, I think there had been irreparable damage done to the brand at some point where no like big deal, big wig like TV companies were like trying to buy in. It was just like a fishing channel like Destination America, and they were just like, oh, we got to buy her, like we got to go for it. So I think that just consistently happening, and then it was just on more channels that people just didn't have. Like Spike TV, to my knowledge, I think was like a regular cable TV channel. Yeah. Destination America, I'm not sure that it was, and Pop TV wasn't. It was like you have to buy the channel or have a specific package that wasn't like the regular one. So it was out there less. Yeah. And I think people were like, I can't find it anymore, you know, and then it's, you know, short attention spans and you just go on to the next thing. So I think that was it. For
That's
sure.
Got to be hugely frustrating for the talent when you're kind of putting in these performances, and as you say, the women's division has got such a buzz and you've got such a great feeling backstage. For that all to be flipped over the course of that couple of years, that's got to be so frustrating for you guys.
I mean, it was. I mean, but we all still love it. You know what I mean? So we were all just like real hopeful, and you know, we wanted to work there, and we really enjoyed it. And you know, there was still good times, like with like Gaburek there, and you know, being on like Destination America and stuff like that. And I know that Damore is doing a really good job of revamping everything right now. But it was like, there was definitely, and yeah, it's just really boils down to like really bad advice and really bad business decisions that were made, for sure.
We were in England, we had it was on a channel called Challenge over here, and it was huge over here. I mean, you guys were Maximum Impact tours. I went to some of them with our host Andy. It was always a great show, and then it was like, oh, that was got pulled off the air, or they lost. I think even the Challenge TV contract happened, and that was on Freeview over here. So kind of what you're mentioning about channels, and that it would come as standard with all the packages that you get on the TV, much like AEW has it over here. It's on a channel that if you've got pretty much accessible. A standard, yeah, and obviously everything's more accessible now because like we're talking NWA in a minute, that's on YouTube and whatnot. And it's good to see them coming back into life now and flying under the radar really nicely and doing really well, which is nice. But yeah, from my point of view, I think I spoke to, I think it was either Santino or Matt Raywold about this, and I kind of said that it felt like it lost its identity a little bit near the end.
Yeah, I mean, some people even think just going from the 6-sided ring to the 4-sided ring made it completely lose its identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
What did you think of the 6-sided ring, Angelina? How was that to perform in the 6-side?
Oh, it was so confusing at first. So confusing. Because like the first time I ever did it was like a 45-second or like minute-long squash match, like back in 2004, like me and Trinity. And I remember I didn't even really have a chance to get in the ring beforehand. And it's wildly different having 2 more sides. I remember I was like, you know, when you spin in a circle and you try not to get dizzy, so you just find a focal point every time you go around. Yeah. I just tried to like remember when I was getting up, like where the hard camera would be. And I'm like, okay, so that's the side of the ring that I need to do because there's so many more sides. But then it became nothing. We were doing house shows in that ring. We were doing TV all the time. It became very normal, not difficult at all. There was always, when we would film at Universal Studios, there's always like one dead spot in the ring. It was like the back, like right side or something like that. So we would like kind of like avoid doing like anything out there, anybody going out of the ring there or whatever. But it became like just as normal as being in a 4-sided ring.
Was it a big difference in going back to 4 sides after 6?
Yeah, I think so. We all had to kind of get used to that again, but once again, like not a big deal. I don't really think it was a big deal for us. You know, we were just like, I mean, it's a ring. So
the last question we got for TNA is actually sent in by Andy, who was going to be, he's recovering from, so he's just come back on the podcast. He's had surgery, got bit by a dog on the lip. Ugh. Of all things to get places to bit as a podcaster on the lip. He come back and done the AEW.
On the lip, did you say?
On the lip, yeah, on the mouth. Yeah, so he had to have surgery. Obviously, he had to have, you know, stitches. Then he stitches out today. He joined us earlier on, but obviously trying to do 2 podcasts in a day is slightly challenging for him at the moment. But the question that he asked anyway was, did you feel that you got the appreciation that you deserved in TNA, or do you think that there was a little bit that you didn't get, that you deserved, maybe more than what you should have got?
I mean, I don't know. Well, it just depends on like what era of ownership we're talking about here. Okay. So like, obviously, like from when I started until when I had that visa issue in 2009. Yeah. So basically 2007 to 2009, perfect. Like loved it. Very happy. I mean, we were on the top all the time. And then the visa thing happened. So that was like a lag, but then I came back in 2010 and that was probably one of the best years I had. And then it was like, well, that's when new management came in, and then I quit in 2012.
Yeah.
And then came back in like early 2014 with Gabrick under management. And then, you know, I was pregnant in 2015. So, and then when I went back in but it was just like, we were all, for the most part, I'd say probably like 90 to 95% of the roster was just paid per appearance. So when you're being used all the time, that's totally great. When you're not, it sucks because you're not making money. So it just like around like that. I mean, I did fine in 2014 when I went back, but then it's like, you know, anytime someone's new or anytime someone comes back or whatever, you come back, you get a big push, you're doing everything. And then it's kind of like, well, here, you know, and then you kind of get to the point where it's like, you're not really like being used or whatever. And then that's what happened in 2017. That was the last time I was there, was I had come back after giving birth to my son and was doing a thing. And then about 8 months later, I just like wasn't booked on these TVs and wasn't booked on like the next ones. And I was like, okay, I'll wait and see what happens on the next one, not on the next ones. And then I just hit up Bob Ryder right away. And I was like, I just want my release. I'm like, if you guys cannot figure out like what to do with me after 10 years, like I gotta go.
Fair enough. Well, actually, one last minute, Tina. I was reading earlier on, and I must admit, the words coming out of my mouth was, it was outrageous. You and Velvet never won tag gold.
I know.
Won it with Winter in the end.
I know. Never made any sense ever. Like we thought we were going to win them when they first came out, but TNA was very heavy on babyface victory. Send the people home happy. It's got to be the baby faces. So I think it was like Taylor Wilde and Sarita that won it the first time. So it's very wild that we were only we were the only ever all the time tag team there, and we never won.
I couldn't believe it.
Pro wrestling, go figure.
I was certain that you did, and I was reading up, and I was like, no, Winter. Okay, this
which literally never made any sense either, but it's is what it is.
It is pretty. Let's talk NWA. Now, this is Fiona's baby. So every Tuesday, you can guarantee when Power's on the telly, or Power's on YouTube, not on the telly, on YouTube, Fiona will post a tweet. It will be her, a mug of tea, a sofa,
and my feet up.
his feet up, Tim Storm looking like he's just had about 3 hours in sunbed. Every single week. That's what we get from. I watch it the next day because that's the beauty. I think that's one of the beauties of NWA for me is that obviously everything's, you've got networks and what have you, but for me it's the best part of it is I can literally work in the morning, I can have my lunch break, and I can just sit there, YouTube, NWA, Power, bang, and I absolutely love it because it does take you back. It feels nostalgic. It has that kind of late 80s WCW-ish look about it. WCW and NWA were kind of the same thing, but it has that really good look about it, and I really enjoy it. But do you think now, because social media is Marmite, or we say in England, you either love it or hate it, basically. It has this, but what it does do really well is can get eyes on the product because, like I just said, you can go on YouTube and just go, okay, oh, Power's on there, I'm watching it.
It's free, it's not behind a paywall, and it's just accessible for everyone.
Exactly.
Well, that's the best way to get views, right? Is like not make it difficult for people to be able to view it. And that was actually something that was really hard in Ring of Honor. Is I never knew when to tell people to watch it or like what day or what. It was like a different hour in every city in the entire country on a different channel at a different time. Like none of us knew when it aired. Like one time, this girl who did my Botox, she was at like a sports bar at like 1 p.m. on a day of the week and was like, "Oh, you're on the TV here," and it was like Ring of Honor, and I was like, didn't even know, didn't even know. But see. When people don't know where or how to find it, it's very damaging to your product. So it's like YouTube is just so ridiculously huge. And another really great idea would be like Pluto TV, just having the whole channel, just your own channel.
Yeah.
All day, just like I think Impact has this, just like all day, every day, just NWA stuff. That might be something they look into. I think that'd be a really good idea.
Yeah, they not long come back from Australia because the Smashing Pumpkins toured out there and they've done an Australian leg, which I think, which was again great because it puts the eyes where it needs to go on the product. It was a great tie-in because.
Well, that's really smart. That's really smart, Billy. You know what I mean? Like he's putting that in front of all of his music fans. Yeah. And there's he got a lot of music fans, so that's really a very smart idea as well.
It is, and maybe Billy can have a look at some of the UK venues to come over and do that.
I'm sure he will. I know, he's got big plans for expansion. So,
right,
and he has taken it on tour with the US leg of the tour as well, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. Be good to see some of you guys over on this side of the Atlantic for a change.
Well, the great thing, I mean, there's a lot of great things with Billy. Like I adore him, but like he's been in the entertainment business for 35 years. You know what I mean? So he knows all of the ins and outs. And the music industry is a lot more cutthroat and beyond crazy than like just wrestling. You know what I mean? Like the wrestling world. But he's just like, he just loves wrestling. And he's also very open to ideas and conversations about creative stuff. And he is very creative, very, very, very creative and very driven and has a lot of contacts. So, I mean, he's definitely done wonderful job with NWA. And I know, like I said, has like very big plans to do a lot more too.
For yourself, Angelina, obviously you're competing in singles at the moment. Would you like a reformation with Velvet and a run as the Beautiful People again? Because
that'll never happen.
No,
she's physically retired. She physically retired in 2017.
Yeah,
she can't bump anymore.
Definitely won't be back.
No, she will never take another bump again because her neck is toast.
Oh, so disappointing.
Yeah.
It must be nice for you to be back at NWA though, and kind of be on screen with her. I remember when you came back and the whole Dirty Dango and JTG, and you were kind of aligned with them initially, and she was like, "Oh, they're my boys," sort of thing. What does she do? And that whole little thing going on was really quite cool. You were kind of getting back into a wee stride there, which was nice. But it must.
And you know, Billy, like, Billy loves us too, which will never not be the wildest thing to me, because like I remember being like 13 years old watching like Much Music in Canada on the TV, and like the music video for Today, you know, was like #1 on like the top 30 on like Friday night, and like I loved the Smashing Pumpkins when I was like 13. And like now we work for the guy and he loves us, and we're just like, what is going on? Like, it's so, I would have never been able to have thought of that when I was 13. But it's cool. Like, I mean, like, we're BFFs all the time, you know, like we've done everything together, traveled everywhere together, and we love being in the locker room with each other. And, you know, Billy's a huge fan of the gimmick, and everybody thinks it's so great and cool to see, you know, and like, we're very fortunate. Like we're 15 years into this gimmick and we're still in very high demand, whether it's like where we work together or just doing like appearances and stuff together too. And like, that'll never not be like really cool for us. For sure.
I was going to say, and then Fiona, you'll back me up on this. Every person that we've had on has said, I can't believe that when my phone goes off, it's Billy and he's my boss. You know what I mean? It's like
I had that conversation with Taven like probably a year and a half ago, maybe. I think it might have been before I started with NWA, or it might have been right after I started. I can't remember, but he was saying, he was like, dude, he's like, I still like tell my friends, like, I just text with Billy Corgan. You know, like you just look at your phone and it's like Billy Corgan just pops up, and it's just like, it's so wild.
I've got an idea, Fiona, because you do a thing with Inside the Ropes, right? Mm-hmm. With Kenny. So next time you see him with Gangrel,
I know where you're going with this.
Next time you see him with Gangrel, the Beautiful People tour.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be so good.
There you go.
Gangrel is cool as hell too.
Yeah, people have said that, so that's cool.
It's up in Scotland, so I'm going to miss, but I'll be there for Eric Bishop. I was going to get you to promote this in a little while anyway, but you're kind of, but Beautiful People tour. There you go. That's got to happen.
I was going to ask, just on the NWA front, obviously you've been doing stuff with Fodder as Psycho Love now. How are you finding working together so closely on TV like that? Are you enjoying it? Is it strange? Is it?
Oh yeah, no, it's not strange at all. I mean, like, it's like we're together all the time anyway, so it just works perfectly. We really enjoy doing it, so it's a lot of fun. We couldn't start it fast enough. So, and we did like a couple indie shows and got some footage and then sent it to Billy. And I mean, the next tapings, he was like, here you go.
No, that's good. I like the vibe from the two of you. You're quite menacing. So, I
think that's really cool. Cause like we're the only ones doing that there. You know what I mean? So that's like you don't have like you have Tom and Camille as a couple, but like we're totally different from them.
Yeah,
you know completely. What I mean? So, and NWA has a lot of like that clean cut, like good wrestler thing. And we can kind of bring like that edgier, sexier kind of thing, which is like what me and Tal were bringing like to TNA. We were the ones that were doing that type of thing. So like me and Fodder or did I say TNA? Yeah, me and Fodder and NWA, we're kind of doing like that thing there. Sorry, when my cat says the zoomies, he's going crazy right
That's
now.
Right.
Not gonna lie, you kind of when you kind of give me the fear a little bit. I'm kind of like that. Oh, she's scary. So you're doing a good job.
Well, that's good. That's I don't mind when people say that. It's funny because like back in 2008, we did a pay-per-view when I wrestled Taylor Wilde for the title. And that was in the town where I went to college. So I had like 40 family members and like buddies that I went to college with there. And I had, before Fight TV became like a network, I think it was just like Fight, but it was like it was a radio station or something like that. Me and Kevin Nash had to go in like a few days before the pay-per-view and do media all around Toronto. And I ended up going and doing like the Fight Network or whatever it was, radio show. And so I'm talking, and like halfway through the interview with the DJ, he was like, I just need to say something. And he's like, and please don't take offense to this. He was like, but he's like, I did not expect you to be this nice. and I just started laughing because I knew where he was going with it. And he's like, not that I thought that you would like be a bitch, but like, I don't know. Cause like, you're very convincingly one on TV. And I was just like, and he's like, I hope you're not like a, and I was like, no, I'm like, that's great. That means I'm like good at my job.
Yeah, it's a compliment,
that I make you
isn't
believe I'm one, but that's like, that's a big part of wrestling is that believability factor. And I think like, if Tal and I had come off as like real cringe or like really bad acting or something like that when we were doing The Beautiful People, we wouldn't have had anywhere near the success that we did. And we did because it was so believable.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Last question before we wrap up today, Angelina. What's left for you? What do you want to accomplish, if anything else, in wrestling now?
No, everything. No, I don't know. I mean, I'll do this until like I'm physically done. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm like, I'm not trying to be like in the ring when I'm 50. But like, I definitely, just because like I've been doing TV for probably, I mean, if we're thinking about WWE too, I've been doing TV for like 19 years,
19 years,
right? So like, I just feel like I would love to like be a producer, like work backstage, obviously, be a producer or an agent or something like that, or a trainer. Because I just have a lot of TV experience to give, because like just doing like your local indie is nowhere near what it's like doing like TV or like a live pay-per-view. It's like a whole different animal. So I just have a ton of experience in doing that I have to give and to teach like the younger and like upcoming generations of wrestlers. And, you know, like just being a character was like such a huge thing for me, and cutting promos, and I can help people like find what resonates best with them so that they're the most comfortable. And then that makes everything come out of them really in a believable way, which is really big for your success and like all that kind of stuff. So I think because this has been like more than half my life, it's all I know really. So I feel like I would want to just do like all the non-physical things after that. For sure.
With agents, Angelina, how much of the match can you kind of do on the fly, and how much if you just kind of got certain things that the agents want you to absolutely get in, and then you get a little bit of freedom as well as performers to do what you want to do?
Usually it just comes from the top. So like just NWA, like specifically, it's like if Billy has certain things that he wants to see in the match, he will tell the agents that in the agents meeting. And then whoever our agent is, whether it's like Medusa or Jazz, they'll say, okay, this is what Billy wants. This is what this is going to be and what's this going to be. And then it's like, you just kind of figure it all out on your own and hit those points. And that's kind of like how Vince Russo was with us when it came to doing like promos and backstage segments in TNA, is they would write out full scripts for us and we would get them prior to the TVs, which was great because we knew exactly what to pack. But sometimes they were written where like we would read them and we'd be like, nah, I don't really see myself saying this like specific word or this specific sentence. Like, I don't know that I could say this as my character and make it sound very believable. Like, would you be okay if like maybe instead of saying this, I said this? And Russo was always like, oh my God, like it's fine. I don't care. As long as you hit these specific bullet points, when the pay-per-view is, the time, the day, whatever, like make it your own. I trust you. So the matches, it's like, you know, this is the time you have, this is what the finish is. If anything specifically needs to be done. And sometimes it's just like, so-and-so versus so-and-so, y'all have 7 minutes, so-and-so's over, figure it out. So it's not like micromanaged by any means.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Last one from me, but if we got time.
Yeah,
like Wrestling, for me, it's in a phenomenal place in 2023. When you look across the board, you've got a real change, a real shake-up in the last few years. We've got people like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Tony Khan, Billy Corgan, and Scott D'Amore in these positions of power, and things have certainly changed. For you, is that exciting in terms of the potential with wrestling, in terms of the crossovers, working with other promotions, having that opportunity to face performers in NWA and elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that whole Forbidden Door thing is really cool, but in my opinion, it just can't be done all the time. You know what I mean? Because then that kind of like takes away from like the specialness or like the surprise or, you know, like the draw of doing some kind of like crossover gimmick or match or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, in not doing it too often, that keeps it as a big deal when it does happen, you know? So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I always thought like Triple H being in charge was like a great idea. And like Shawn Michaels is the reason I got in the business. So I think, you know, they did a great NXT was like when Triple H was totally running NXT, like, you know, a few years ago or whatever, it was like, man, it was huge. Yeah, it was huge. So I mean, I think it's great. Everybody that's doing what they're doing right now, for sure.
Exactly that. Wrapping up, Angelina, can you tell the fans what you got coming up? Where can they find your socials, appearances, whatever you want to plug, go for it.
Yeah. Oh boy, what do I have? So June 25th, AML, which is here in North Carolina, mixed tag match, Brian Pillman Jr. and Ari Alexander versus me and Fodder. And so that's Sunday, June 25th. And then we've got like 2 shows in July, early July for NWA. And then we've got just like a tentative schedule all the way until like the end of August, I think, when 75 is in St. Louis. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll be doing all the upcoming NWA shows, and we're always pumping them out on our socials once everything's confirmed. So my Twitter's at @actualalove. And my Instagram is alove, the number 4 life 222. And then I have an exclusive content website, angelinaforever.com.
There you go. Fiona, quickly, inside the ropes, what have you got coming up? We've already mentioned Gangrel. I know we've
we've got Gangrel on the 16th of July. We've got a 5-night tour with Eric Bischoff in September. The tickets are on sale for that at itrtix.com. Tomorrow night, I am emceeing for Main Event Entertainment in Kilsyth. Saturday, I'm emceeing for Premier British Wrestling at 4th Gala. Next weekend, it's gala season here, so it's all gala shows, all village shows coming up. What else is going on? My goodness, I'm actually hitting them all. I've got so many shows coming up. Loads of Premier British.
You got a busy wrestler schedule.
I have got a busy schedule, but yeah, ITR, W3L, PBW, and MEE. That's kind of pretty much it coming up.
That confirms, you know, just how popular wrestling is in 2023 again.
Yeah.
It's great to hear.
So you sold out the last show, right? BCW, was it British?
We sold out BCW. I emceed in my promotion and my hometown time. We had it was so good. I loved it.
I hope to be able to go over to the UK again sometime soon, because like I feel like I did it so much between, I don't know, like 2009 to 2017. And I haven't been over there, I don't think, since like 2017. I love it over there. That's like my favorite place to go wrestle, like outside of Canada and the US.
Any bookers out there?
We'd love an NWA tour, so hopefully Billy Corgan with his contacts.
It'll probably happen at some point.
It will sell out, absolutely guaranteed.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah,
I absolutely would. And finally, we need to promote Dave. We need to promote Buckle Up, our show with Ignite Wrestling Pro, 23rd of July. We've got the best of British talent on there. We've got a very unhappy champion with us at the minute, which we need to address another time, and we will. But other than that, Angelina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angelina.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Fiona, we'll speak again soon, definitely. We'll definitely see it Buckle Up anyway. And Dave, I think I'm back in your company tomorrow or Saturday, right?
Yeah, we got Impact tomorrow.
Oh, we do. We got Review Impact tomorrow. Yes. So, guys, this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with Angelina Love, Fiona Lochran, and Dave Robinson. I've been your host, Adam Cousins. Buckle down, stay safe, and good night.